Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Craftsman Creative Podcast. I'm excited for today's episode because I have an announcement to make. Today, I am officially kicking off my next book project. Woo! Cue the applause! Wait, another book? Didn't you just release one last year? Yes, and here is why I'm doing another book. I see the most growth in my business when I'm actively working on a creative project and sharing the process in public, whether it be my last book or building courses or the recent podcast season I produced with Joe, the 10K creator. So, as I mentioned before, I have a few projects on my plate. I'm raising a film fund, and there's a link below or in the show notes if you'd like to learn more about that and get weekly updates. I'm relaunching the course business from Craftsman Creative to Lightbulb courses, and so there's a lot on my plate. But there's something about a book that focuses my weekly writing, brings people along for the journey, and aligns with my values of sharing what I know with as many people as possible to help clear the path for those on the same journey as I'm on. So with that, today I'm going to share the approach that I'm using this time around to write my next book. The first part is to find a framework. Now, I've had a few ideas for the next book, and I knew that I wanted it to be an extension of my first book, Craftsman Creative: How 5-Figure Creators Can Build 6-Figure Businesses. The recent narrowing of my focus and my audience for my high-value consulting offer gave me the clarity I needed to decide on the outcome for the next book. So for me, that's always first. If you've listened to this stuff before, if you've been paying attention, the Craftsman approach is a mindset of having an outcome-focused approach to creative work. So we start with the outcome. But I needed a framework to do a better job writing and publishing the book this time. My last book has sold about 200 and 220 copies, which isn't terrible, but it hasn't moved the needle on my business as much as I'd hoped. I looked to those who were using books strategically to grow their business. And as I turned to the stack of books to my left on my desk here, the one on top was called Scorecard Marketing by Daniel Priestley, which had been sent to me for signing up for his Score app. So I saw that the book was published by Rethink Press. So I went down the rabbit hole. I found their book called Book Builder, the definitive guide to writing the book to transform your business. And the title alone was enough to know that I'd found what I was looking for. In that book, they lay out a very clear method to writing and publishing your book. Now, I'm also considering working with them to publish my book, but that's a story for another day. With a framework in hand, I got to work on the initial planning steps of the next book. So, step one is really to lay it all out. The first step is to dump every possible idea onto a page so that you can then organize it. So what they recommend is you literally just think about every single topic that you could possibly want to share with the intended reader. So I started thinking through everything I wanted to write about, and then, more importantly, everything the intended reader would need to know and understand in order to get the outcome promised by the book title and subtitle. The problem was I didn't have a title or subtitle yet. So I started putting down all the ideas, and I used an awesome new app called Freeform, which comes standard with the recent updates of macOS and iOS. So I was just using that app, and I would drop little, digital Post-it notes, and I would color them based on the suggestions in the Book Builder book. And I could see everything starting to fall into place. I had about 35 chapters. I had the equivalent of, 30 to 40,000 words right there on the page. I had ideas for sections and chapters and subsections and quotes and anecdotes and stories and things like that, all in one place. So it really helped me visualize and see that I had everything that I needed in place. Now, I knew I wanted to have a book based on my new movie framework, and if you haven't checked that out, or you don't know what I'm talking about, go back a few episodes and look at the 5-part movie framework series I did in this podcast, and that'll help you understand what I'm talking about. But that framework is about building and growing creative businesses. So those 5 parts of the framework became the main sections of the book. Now, Each chapter is about 1,000 to 1,500 words, and then each section has a few chapters in it. And so I'm really excited that everything nicely aligned with that framework. But what I discovered was it also aligned nicely with the process of making a real movie. So there's pre-production, and then there's production, and then post-production and distribution. And the book aligns really nicely with those real life examples. But the last piece I needed was to have a title. So you can't have a book without a title. I was researching different movie-related terms, and one of them stood out among all the rest. The reason I loved it so much is because of where the term came from and really the meaning behind it. So the meaning of the word is a highly popular and financially successful, and it connotes a huge impact. So do you have a guess of what the title would be or what the word is? As you may have guessed, the word is blockbuster. After workshopping the title a little bit, I came up with a subtitle which perfectly captures the reader and the outcome the book is promising. Blockbuster. Expand your creative business to 7 figures and beyond. So I'll take the lessons I've learned over 17 plus years in the film industry, and I'll help creative business owners create the huge impact they've been working so hard for by helping them make their businesses highly popular and financially successful. I am beyond excited for this book. I'll be writing chapters and publishing them both through my newsletter and on the blog, and I'm also going to be reading them on this podcast, because the thing I didn't do with the last book was record an audiobook. I started and I didn't finish. And so this time I'm just going to do it in public. I'm going to record the first draft or first version of every chapter, and that will be the podcast going forward for a number of weeks here on out. So, just like the last book, the first draft of each chapter will be free forever online and on this podcast for those who can't or don't want to purchase a copy or even share their email address to get access to the book. So, what questions or thoughts do you have about the process so far? Have you considered writing a book? What I'd love is for you to shoot me an email and let me know what questions you have, because I can include those in these podcasts. After I read a chapter, I can answer questions and use this as a way to kind of have a back and forth and help you along your journey if you want to be an author as well. So just shoot me an email, darren@craftsmancreative.co. And as always, if you have not yet headed over to take the free scorecard, I urge you to do so. It's like getting some micro consulting from me, because you'll answer about 30 questions. It takes about 3 minutes. And at the end, I'll give you resources based on your answers as far as what to do in order to grow your business and unlock the potential that you have. So scorecard.craftsmancreative.co. I hope you'll check it out. Thank you so much for listening. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this new book title and this approach. So shoot me an email, and we'll see you next week.